It is a pleasure to be joined by the newest addition to the UFC roster, Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady. How does that sound? Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady, UFC fighter.
It sounds great, it sounds great, and can't wait to have Bruce Buffer announce it. Have everyone hear it. The pride of Palestine, Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady. But yeah, it feels great.
I've been covering your career for quite a while now, and I know you were on the UFC's radar years ago. But if you look at it now, do you think this version of Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady, like if you got signed like 3, 4 years ago when you were Brave champion, do you almost like, I know obviously the dream is to make the UFC, but you almost, when you look at this version of yourself, say, all right, you know what, now is the right time, or do you feel like you were ready years ago?
I mean, definitely for sure. Like, even right now, I'm better than I was 5 years ago, and I still believe in 3 years from now, I'll still be better than I am right now. The way I looked at it is, I feel like the UFC always matches the fighters, with their level. If you see some guys, they come in the UFC, they have like just one fight or their debut, but they're really, really good fighters, and they'll match them with someone like really high level. And then sometimes you'll see like, guys that are like maybe 6-2 or 8-3. They'll match them with guys that are like maybe 0-1. I just kind of felt like, of course, there's no exact formula with how the matchmaking is done there. I mean, like, people always say go through the contender series route. The contender series route is easier than, they go ahead and, they sign two fighters to fight in the contender series that everyone believes both fighters should be in the UFC. Like me and George Hardwick put on a performance, and that was a matchup that people did not think was going to be a contender fight. So to answer your question, 100%, I believe I'm a better fighter. But what I really think the reason is I'm in the UFC right now and not 5 years ago when I wanted is because that's God's timing. That's the only legit real answer that I have, is that it's God's timing, and it has nothing to do with really my my abilities as a fighter.
How old are you now?
28.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're still very young, and I know it's nice for guys to come in at 22, 23 years old, but when you don't have that experience, like you've built a ton of experience, you fought all over the world, you've won titles in different organizations, you train at a great gym full of top level guys, and a lot of the guys at Fortis MMA made it to the UFC through the Contender Series. So were you ever wondering, like, man, when is it going to be my turn?
Oh, every single day, every single minute of me not being in the UFC was me wondering. And just, I mean, if you look through your messages, you'll see, like, you'll be like, hey, let me know if anyone pulls out. Like, I was literally almost close to weight and in fight shape for the last like 3 years, literally waiting for someone to pull out every other weekend, or every other week. I was literally waiting to just jump in at welterweight or lightweight, just to take any last minute fight. But now sitting back and seeing how everything played out, how I went through the losses, the injuries, the wins, the experience, everything that I went through, and then like to get this fight, they put me as the underdog and they made it such a big deal. Now sitting back and looking at everything that I went through made me such a better person and such a better fighter and ready for this exact moment. Like, I do believe that I'm 100% a better fighter, a smarter fighter, more technical, better in every way than I was before. Um, and I just believe that I'm right now hitting my prime. So right now it's like a relief, like, okay, all that has passed, but now it's time to shine.
And I mean, you said it. They didn't give you a layup. They gave you George Hardwick, a guy that a lot of people were excited about. They were hyping up. A lot of people think he was probably the best fighter out of all this. And we're only on week 2 or week 3, and they're calling him kind of the biggest name on the show. When they gave you George Hardwick, were you aware of how much hype he had around him?
Not in the beginning, actually. In the beginning, I didn't know really that he was a big deal over there. But as the weeks started to pass, usually people ask you like, "Who are you fighting?" You tell them a name, and they're like, "Oh, okay." But every time people would know who I'm fighting, or if they ask me who am I fighting, and I say George Hardwick, they go like, "Oh, oh." Like, they kind of give me that look like, ah, man, good luck, man. You know, and it kind of started to frustrate me, like, just how good people saw him as, and they forget what I could do, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna switch this up, and then seeing how smart George Hardwick is, super smart guy. You see how he talks, but I thought it was really weird how he breaks down his own fights and how he literally says everything he does. Cause like usually I would try to break down my opponent's fights and show it to my coaches, but there he was just posting his fights and saying exactly what was going through his mind and what was going on through the fight. So like I was just like watching his videos and going like, okay, cool, yeah, yeah, okay, thanks. Oh, I didn't even notice that, but thanks for pointing that out. And I was like, this guy is so used to fighting wrestlers, and I believe I'm the best wrestler from all his previous opponents. And I think he thinks I'm gonna come out just all out wrestling. And he said something in one of his videos against his fight versus Kyle Driscoll, who's a wrestler. He said Kyle came out and he threw a kick at me, and that surprised me and stuff like that. He's like, I thought he was just gonna come out and wrestle. And that kind of gave me an idea of like, okay, so you keep saying I'm a wrestler and I'm just this average MMA guy. I'm gonna do something you've never seen me do before. If you study my fights, I'm gonna do something that you've never seen me do, and it's gonna be, Oh, and he also said, Abdul's like this average, MMA fighter. He just boxer wrestler. It's not like he's some southpaw karate guy, And he's like, he's not some southpaw karate guy. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be a southpaw karate guy for this fight, and that's what I did. I just kept switching stances and kept getting him on the angles. I never brawled with him really. I never just sat there and swung at him and kept coming forward. I did everything with my setting it up with my feints, and I just took my angles. And every time he thought I was going to wrestle, I would strike. And it was really the feints that just kept catching him off guard.
Yeah, and he praised you a lot for your game plan. I saw you guys have a moment after. What did you guys tell each other after the fight?
Man, he was just telling me like, good job. You read me like a book, and you surprised me. And it's so crazy. Like I've never seen anyone at such a high level with such, like, everything's on the line, and to lose in that moment, he just took it like a champ, like I've never seen anyone, be that humble, that respectful. I really started to respect him after that. Like I did not like him before the fight, like at all. I just couldn't stand anything about him, and it's just like that for me. Like especially when I have a long camp and all I think about is the fight and all I focus on is the fight, I really start to dislike my opponents because it's like depriving me from all types of fun and pleasure that I would like to be doing. Like I want to be doing barbecues and I'm not. I'm just over here and training all day. And but when we had that talk and he was just showing respect and just being very humble, I really respected him, and I wish him all the best. I mean, I know he's a really tough guy, and this was gonna suck for one of us, it really sucks because I believe we both deserve to be in the UFC, but I'm sure he's gonna be there. I don't know what the process is, but he definitely has the talent and skill to be up there too.
Yeah, it was a very high level fight, and it's a fight that a lot of people were talking about before. I mean, I made that comment as well. Like these are two guys that could be in the UFC right now. So it's rare that we get such a good fight on the contender series. We get a lot of great fighters. Obviously, we just saw Sean O'Malley become champion, Jamal Hill became champion, but to get such a high level matchup, we haven't gotten those too many times on the contender series. So do you almost think like now looking at it, I'm sure you were kind of pissed off at the game when people were underestimating and stuff like that. Is part of you kind of happy that you got to fight such a high level guy as your entry to the UFC?
Oh, 100%. I mean, everything about this fight made it to what it is. Like Number one, me being the underdog. Number two, fighting such a high level opponent. It being this historic fight between two guys that are both title holders and this and that. Impressing Dana White and the matchmakers, which was like my number one priority. I didn't just want to win. Like I wanted to impress them. Being the main event of the Contender Series, like for me, that's how I want to enter the UFC. I don't want, if the matchmakers or Dana White ever come across my name and they don't remember, like I want them to remember. So everything that happened leading up to this fight made them remember. It's not like George Hardwick was the 5-1 underdog and then I beat him. It's like, of course you should beat him. You're the favorite. But because I was the underdog and I was dominating the fight each round, I went in the third round still beating him and not trying to like waste time. Like I was really enjoying it. Right before the fight started, Dana White and the matchmakers were behind me, and I looked at Dana White and I was like, I'm getting that contract. He looked at me and laughed like okay, like come on, show me. And that's exactly what I wanted to do, and that's what I did. So I'm really happy for all of that. And even moving forward, like I really don't mind being the underdog. It only helps me better when I win the fights. Like, it's such a big deal. So it really doesn't matter. It puts me in an uncomfortable position during camp, in an uncomfortable position that I don't really like to be in, but I need to be in. Like it literally brings the best out of me. And I'm not like one of those guys that says, oh, being the underdog, it makes me push harder. And they're actually like crying in bed and just thinking about it all day. Like it actually does make me a better person. It really takes off all the stress from me and it just lets me focus on getting better. And it felt good after. And I just, I'm ready to keep that going.
Dana White did talk about how what impressed him a lot was that in the third round you were still going for it. That was something that he pointed out. What's next for you though? How do you physically feel? I know you had mentioned UFC Abu Dhabi. You said you'd be happy to fight anywhere. You'd be very grateful to fight at any event. But do you think UFC Abu Dhabi, October 21st, is that a date that you could turn around and fight at?
I mean, physically, I feel great. Like any fight, even if you finish the fight in 10 seconds, you still come out of the fight just feeling like you got hit by a truck the next day. But for the next 2 days after the fight, I was literally just in my recovery center, just doing my sauna, cryotherapy, red light, hyperbaric, just recovering. And then the 2 days after that, I was training until now. I'm back to regular training. So it's not like I would usually just start going out and leave the gym or leave everything, just quit all of MMA for like a week. I got right back into it. I'm like still in that stage where, if the UFC calls me any day now or any week now for Abu Dhabi, I will take that call. Like I will accept it because UFC Abu Dhabi is the biggest event of the year. It's my dream. Like my dream is to get in the UFC, win my first fight in the UFC, eventually fight in UFC Abu Dhabi. So if I could get all of those dreams like right away, like why not? Like why would I have to wait until October next year if I could just do it now? Now, I'm not gonna be stressed out about it. Like I wouldn't mind fighting in any other event, November, December, doesn't matter. But if I could get on UFC Abu Dhabi, I mean that'd be great. And I just checked the website. There's like 8 fights so far. So I feel like, 8 fights so far on the card. The only lightweight fight on the card is the main event. So I'm pretty sure, they need to add another 3 or 4 fights on the card and a lightweight fight. I'm Middle Eastern, I told Dana White backstage, like, I'd love to be on Abu Dhabi card. So there's just a lot of those little things that, might add up and make sense to put me on that card. So let's do it. Why not?
And yeah, because listen, I look at the UFC Paris card, whether last year or this year, and it is stacked with French talent. And that's the way it's supposed to be, right? The French fans are going to go, they're going to go to the arena, and they're going to get to support. Literally, I think there's a French fighter on at least red or blue corner of every single fight. Now, when you
Yeah.
look at UFC Abu Dhabi, and I know sometimes it's not easy because there aren't that many Arab fighters signed. We've got Bilal Muhammad, who's waiting for a title shot, rightfully so it didn't pan out for him. But I mean, you have an opportunity to be the Arab fighter that competes in front of essentially a home crowd. So like that part specifically, like how special would that feel for you? Because we saw, I'm sure you've seen like Bilal, the reception that he gets there. He almost said that he doesn't want to fight anywhere but Abu Dhabi after getting that love over there.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, you don't have to tell me about that. I already know. I already know all that. I mean, I fought in Abu Dhabi before, and I fought in the Middle East in other shows. So just imagine what would happen if I fought in the UFC for Abu Dhabi. I mean, I forgot to mention this to Dana, but I have people that bought their tickets to Abu Dhabi from June. Literally. Like they would tell me, "Hey Abdul, like no pressure, but I bought my tickets to UFC Abu Dhabi because you're gonna be on that card after you win in the Contender Series, and they sign you to UFC Abu Dhabi." I was like, "Yo, leave me alone. I'm not focused on that right now. I just have to focus on the next fight." So it's not just one or two friends. Like I have multiple people that already bought their tickets to Abu Dhabi for those dates, and not that that's my priority for them, but like there's already a lot of people that believe in me to book their tickets before I even got in. So just imagine right now, inshallah, with me being in, with them booking me a fight in Abu Dhabi, if that's gonna happen, I just I can't imagine like what kind of support there would be, and I'd love to do that.
All right, well, let's start that. Let's start the push. It starts with this interview, and
Yeah.
then maybe they can see the word out there. When you look at the lightweight division, because it's so freaking stacked, right? There's no shortage of fighters. Do you look at any names? Because I know you're a guy that follows the sport. You've cornered a ton of your teammates and stuff like that at Fortis who fight in the UFC. Are there any names that interest you at all in the UFC lightweight division?
Honestly, like for now, I feel like I just want a contenders fight, and I know how things go. Like I feel like I would be in a better position to call people out whenever I win my debut in like a crazy fashion. But I mean, I have some people that I have my eyes on down the line. Like this steal and hype thing is pretty cool. Where you don't have to talk trash or anything or hype anything. You just you see a guy that's like he thinks he's all that, and he's not, and you just beat him up, and you take his hype. So I mean, Paddy Pimlet is right there. And when I say Paddy Pimlet, it's like I'm not shooting for the top five right now, and like people be like, "You just fought a contender fight, like get back in line." Paddy's not ranked yet, so it's like I feel like it's a fight that would make sense. And if I was the underdog with George Hardwick, and UFC wants to build Paddy Pimlet, they might be like, all right, let's get this guy that just got off the Contender Series. Maybe people don't know much about him, and then they'll give me Paddy, and I'll beat him because nobody knows yet who I am, and I'll explode again stealing his hype. So I'm here to steal everyone's hype.
I like that. That's a good line. Could be the headline of this interview. Here to see everyone's eye. Well, we'll fit in Abu Dhabi there as well, so we can make the push. But how much? I want to ask you, how much did it help because you've cornered a lot of the Fortis guys, you've put on the uniform, you've roamed around the UFC Apex. How much did that help prepare you mentally when it was your turn?
Man, it did help me a lot. Every time I corner my teammates, I'm there for them and only them. It's not about me when they fight. But there's something about that walkout when I'm with my teammates and we're walking out, and I just like look around and I'm like, okay, this is how it's gonna be. Seeing how they do things, behind the scenes, everything like it's stuff that I've been through all the time, but it's just with the UFC name, the UFC gear. But like just we've come up with a system with how we do things, and just doing that system over and over through the years, it made me very comfortable in trusting it. When it comes to the warm up, when it comes to the weight cut, when it comes to the shakeouts, the pre-fight warm up, just fight day, just things that you do the last week. And coming from the Middle East, you're such a big deal. You have like 10, 20 people around you to do everything for you. And then coming over here at Fortis, it's like a team of MMA fighters. And you usually get like one or two guys, and you do everything alone. And it just teaches you to be more like independent and patient. It's that and a lot of maturity. Like I've grown throughout the years, and just start to do like the weight cuts right now are more dialed in than they were before. The fight week, the month, the camp. So I'm just happy and comfortable with how things are right now with, the training and the private training that I'm doing, like the personal training with Coach Safe as the head coach, when he's really invested in your fight and he breaks it down and just tells you what to do. I feel like I have everything I need, to get me to the title eventually. When it comes down to nutrition, recovery, training, like doctors, physical therapy, like I feel like all the pieces of the puzzle are there and they're just fit right perfectly together.
Yeah, and they call you the pride of Palestine. I know you have a lot of pride in representing Palestine. You're wearing the Palestinian hustle shirt. So just tell me what it means to kind of represent Palestine in the UFC.
This is a dream come true. It means everything to me. My people do not have a lot of, they don't have a lot of things they could do or show because of the restrictions and everything. I'm not trying to be political or anything over here with my platform in the UFC, but I'm just trying to make my people proud. The country that I'm from, the village that I'm from. Everyone sees me and then they have hope and they're very proud of me. So I'm really happy to carry on that flag and represent my people. And just my dream would be like to go fight in Abu Dhabi in front of my people, and then just visit back home for like a week. There's just so much positivity that could come out from me fighting in the Middle East, and I'd love to make it happen.
Yeah, would be definitely a great thing. Before we wrap up, Selwady, I appreciate your time. How much weight have you put on since the fight? Because I see you cooking all this awesome food all the freaking time, the desserts, everything like that. I know you're a knafe
Yeah.
connoisseur as well. So how much are you weighing right now?
So I'm definitely a foodie. Like there's two things I love to do the most, and it's fighting and training and eating. So fighting training is one and eating is the other. If I'm not doing one, I'm doing the other. And I just finished fighting, so I'm definitely eating. I put back a lot of weight, but surprisingly, the last 3 days I've been losing like 4 pounds a day because I've been cutting down on my meals. So I'm right now having like one big meal a day, and then I'm training like 2, 3 times a day to kind of like balance it out. So today I had a box of 70 pieces of sushi, and I thought they were going to be like the regular size sushi, but they were like big pieces. So I was only able to eat 59 of them. I have the others left. I'm definitely going to eat them. But yeah, I mean, I'm eating like 3, 4 burgers at a time. I'm eating like 2 pounds of brisket with like mac and cheese and smoked queso. I'm eating like 4 kanafas. I mean, I could eat, but then that gives me more energy to train. Like I start having that feeling, like I start to sweat and like I need to train. It's not like I'm eating and I just like want to sit back and like watch a movie. Like the more I eat, the more energy it gives me to like want to train more. And thankfully, I didn't have like any serious injuries after this fight, so I just went back to training right away. And yesterday, being Monday here, I started my official week of regular training, like going to Fortis and doing my cardio and doing this and that. But yeah, because the first 4 or 5 days after the fight was just like getting back into it with like some light cardio, running. I love to run, so yeah, the food's been good.
Well, you've earned it, but now I guess time to keep the weight down a little bit to make that Abu
You
Dhabi
see,
card.
yeah, that's the thing is like it's like I was like, let's go UFC Abu Dhabi. Like I had a really tough training camp, like three
Yeah.
months. Like the last 2, 3 days before the fight, if you talk to me, we made an interview, I would tell you I want a 3 month, 4 month break after this because I've just been in straight camp mode since mid-May, like mid-May. And like I literally won a barbecue competition May 20th, and I got this contract like May 23rd. Like I was literally like, anyways. So I was like, yeah, I want to break, get back to barbecue competitions, and then I'll get to MMA. But then I was like, I want UFC Abu Dhabi. That's only in October, once a year. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Like, so I'm kind of like just trying to rush, like kind of enjoying and also at the same time training. And I'll make sure that, inshallah, when/if, but most likely when I get that call, I'll be ready.
All right, let's do it. Well,
So Sean
Selwady,
Shelby, Dana White, Mick Maynard, if you're watching this, put me on UFC Abu Dhabi for the people.
yes, I like it. Well, Selwady, I really appreciate you doing this. Like I said, I've been following your career for a very long time. I knew this moment was going to come, but I'm happy it came in this particular fashion. You impressed a lot of people, impressed Dana White. So congrats on signing with the UFC, and hopefully we'll see you in Abu Dhabi, inshallah.
Thank you.